A 12-year-old black boy lies sprawled across a polished tile floor, his small hands clutching a comic book, eyes wide with confusion and fear. The white security guard stands over him, smirking, hands on hips. Shoppers pause, uncomfortable, but no one moves. Then the doors swing open. A tall black man in a custom three-piece suit walks in. No words, just a sharp gaze. He's here. And everything's about to change. Jaden Carter didn't want to be in that store. Not really. It wasn't the kind of place you browsed in sneakers. With a backpack, especially when your skin was the same color as the rich soil no one wanted to touch. His aunt, Judge Amara Cole, was still in her court robe across town, so she sent him to pick out something for his birthday. "Anything you want," she said. "Today's your day." He didn't want anything fancy, just a comic book. Issue number 64 of Silver Sentinel. He'd been saving for it for weeks, and they finally had it at Brookdale Galleria's flagship boutique bookstore. But the minute he stepped through the store's glass entrance, he felt it. That heavy, invisible stare. The kind that made your spine straighten and your fingers twitch. The kind of stare that said, "You don't belong here, kid. Can I help?" "You!" came a voice from behind him before he'd even made it 3 steps in. Jaden turned. The security guard. Late 50s, pale, square-jawed, good blue uniform ironed stiff. Name tag. Hank R. He wasn't smiling. "I'm just looking," Jaden said. Carefully polite, Hank's gaze flicked to Jaden's backpack, then back to his face. "You sure about that?" Jaden forced a nod and turned, keeping his pace slow. His shoulders relaxed. He found the comic aisle quickly, grabbed the issue he'd been dreaming about, tucked it gently under his arm. That's when he heard the steps. Hard-souled, fast, angry. "You put that back?" Hank barked. And before Jaden could explain, the man shoved him hard. Jaden stumbled back, legs tangling, arms flailing, and slammed into the display rack. The sound of falling books echoed like thunder. Shoppers gasped. A woman dropped her coffee, and there he was, on the floor. Clutching his comic book like a lifeline, tears burning behind his eyes. But refusing to let them fall. "Thought you'd try something slick, huh?" Hank sneered. Jaden opened his mouth, but no words came. The pain in his ribs. The burn of humiliation. The disbelief. Then the door opened. Malik Stone didn't rush. He never needed to. Power wasn't in motion. It was in presence. The moment he stepped through the glass doors of Brookdale Galleria, people moved. A tall black man in a charcoal black 3-piece suit, broad-shouldered, eyes scanning like lasers. His beard was sharp and neat, his taper fade fresh enough too. Make a barber jealous. Black wool overcoat draped over his shoulders like a shadow of purpose. The soft gleam of ox-blood leather Oxfords tapped in rhythm across the tile. He didn't ask questions, didn't shout. He just walked. Straight to Jaden. Shoppers turned. Hank redly froze. Malik looked down. "Jaden, you all right?" Jaden blinked. For a moment, the boy didn't speak, then a whisper. "He pushed me." Malik's jaw flexed once. No yelling. No grand gestures. He turned to the guard, and when their eyes met, the room went quiet. Malik didn't speak at first. He didn't. Need to? Silence could be louder than a shout when it came from someone like him. He looked at Hank redly, like he was taking inventory, measuring the threat. Weighing the stupidity, Hank, on the other hand, tried to bluff. "This kid was acting suspicious," he said, voice puffed up with fake authority. "He was reaching into his bag. I did what I'm trained to do." Malik raised an eyebrow. "You're trained to shove children?" Hank's mouth opened, then closed. He took a step back, not out of fear, but instinct. Malik's presence hit like a wall. It wasn't just the height, or the suit, or the calm in his voice. It was the stillness. Dangerous men didn't flinch. They calculated. "I don't know who you think you are," Hank muttered. Malik took a deliberate step forward, the leather soles of his shoes whispering against the tile. "You're about to—" He turned slightly, just enough to address the frozen crowd. "Did anyone here see this boy steal anything?" A few murmured no. One woman, clutching a baby in her arms, nodded slowly. That man pushed him. Hard. The kid wasn't doing anything. Another shopper, a young man with a phone in hand, said, "I got it on video." Malik's gaze flicked to him. "You filming now?" The man nodded. "Good. Keep filming." Jaden stayed close behind Malik, his comic book still clenched in his hands like a shield. He'd never seen anyone talk to a guard like that before, ever seen anyone not back down. His chest still hurt where he hit the shelf, but something else was replacing the fear now. It was called relief. Hank took a breath, now visibly rattled. "Listen, let's not turn this into what?" Malik interrupted, his tone quiet but razor sharp. "A misunderstanding? Mistake? Or something deeper? You assaulted a child. On camera, in a store, where nothing was stolen. Do you even know who you put your hands on?" Hank paused. "What's that supposed to mean?" Malik stepped closer. His voice dropped, almost conversational. "That boy is under my protection. And I work for people who don't like things like this happening. Especially not to him." There was a pause. Hank scoffed. "You his daddy or something?" "No." Malik's smile didn't reach his eyes. "I'm worse." That was when the second car arrived. A long, gleaming black SUV pulled up silently. In front of the store, the kind of vehicle tinted like a presidential motorcade. A driver in a headset stepped out, walked around the vehicle, and opened the rear door. And from it stepped Judge Amara Cole. Her emerald green blazer caught the sunlight like a royal sash. Ivory blouse pristine, black slacks tailored sharp. She walked in heels like they were weapons. Her microlokes were swept into a low bun, pearl earrings glinting beneath the store's cold fluorescent lights. But it was her face that stopped people, cold, composed, unreadable, carved from granite and grace. Malik gave her a nod. "Judge." "Malik." She stepped inside, her gaze scanning quickly. "Jaden?" The boy nearly ran to her, the comic book still in hand, Auntie? She knelt down briefly, checked him over her hands soft, but her eyes darkening with every breath. Then she stood up and hell followed. Judge Amara Cole didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Years in the courtroom had taught her how to command silence without ever lifting a gavel. Her posture alone spoke volumes back straight, chin slightly raised, eyes cold and unblinking. She didn't just walk into the room. She took it. She faced Hank, the security guard now sweating visibly under the fluorescent lights. "You assaulted my nephew," she said, her voice measured. "Unprovoked. Publicly with witnesses. With footage, and in full view of your coworkers." I didn't know who he was," Hank stammered. Amara's expression didn't flinch. "So if he wasn't my nephew, the assault would be justified." "No." That's not her voice cut like a blade. You laid hands on a child who had committed no crime. A child whose only offense was existing in a space he didn't think he belonged in. Space his guardian sent him into with full legal and financial authority. Hank tried to speak, but she overrode him again. "Let me be clear. If you put your hands on my nephew, you put your hands on me. And trust me, that's not something you'll walk away from easily." The store manager had finally emerged from the back, middle-aged, stiff suit, clearly panicked. "Judge Cole, we are so sorry. This is not reflective of our policies." "Oh, I know," she said coolly, without even glancing at him. "Your policy says that your staff respects all customers. But your practice allows children to be shoved into shelves because of the color of their skin." He swallowed hard. "We will handle it internally." "No, you won't," Malik interjected from behind her. "Not this time." Man with the phone stepped closer. "Yo, this is live. TikTok's already going wild. People in the comments are tagging news stations." Mara turned slowly to the camera and, without smiling, said, "Good. Let them see it." Jaden stood beside her now, taller somehow, not because he'd grown, but because the weight on his shoulders was lighter. He held his comic book like it was sacred, like it was proof that he came in peace and was met with war. Outside police, sirens began to echo faintly in the distance. Like someone had finally called them, not Hank, not the manager, a bystander maybe, or a frightened employee. It didn't matter. They were on their way. Malik stepped toward Hank one final time. You should know something. Hank looked up slowly. I'm not just his bodyguard, Malik said, voice low. I'm former Army Special Operations. 10 years. I've stood in war zones with fewer cowards than I see in your eyes right now. Hank shrank visibly, his puffed-up posture dissolving into something smaller, something pathetic. Then Malik looked down at Jaden and offered his hand. You ready to go? Jaden nodded, but before they could leave, a reporter pushed through the doors. Judge Cole, is it true your nephew was assaulted inside this store? Do you plan to press charges? Was this racially motivated? Amara didn't blink. You can quote me on this, she said, facing the camera directly. Today, a child was reminded that even success and pedigree don't make you immune to racism. But today, he was also reminded that he is not alone. And tomorrow, he'll wake up and know that justice is coming for him and every other kid who ever walked into a store and was treated like a suspect instead of a student. A dreamer, a human being. She turned and walked out with Malik and Jaden flanking her. The cameras followed. As they stepped outside into the blinding sunlight, a crowd had already formed. People filming, cheering, chanting. The video had done its job, and somewhere in the background, unnoticed by most, Hank Redley was slowly removing his security badge. His career ending, not with a press release, but with a pair of empty hands. By the time their SUV pulled away from Brookdale Galleria, the video had reached over 2 million views. 17 seconds. That's all it took. 17 seconds of a scared black boy getting shoved to the ground by a white security guard. 17 seconds of a towering suited man stepping between injustice and a child. 17 seconds of a judge delivering one brutal, articulate promise of consequence. In the age of the internet, that was all you needed. News outlets had already picked it up before. Jaden even made it home. NBC, CNN, BuzzFeed, Vox. The hashtags exploded. Hashtag justice for Jaden. Hashtag he pushed the wrong kid. Hashtag Judge Cole. Hashtag Bodyguard Stone. But inside the SUV, the world was quiet. Jaden sat in the middle seat, staring at the comic still clutched in his lap. Malik sat beside him, posture relaxed but alertist on the road, earpiece in, hand near the underarm holster hidden beneath his jacket. Amara rode in the front, silent, unreadable. You still want that comic? Malik finally asked, breaking the silence. Jaden nodded. I didn't even open it yet. Malik smiled slightly. It'll read better once your ribs stop hurting. Jaden looked up at him. You didn't yell when it happened. I don't yell, Malik replied. That's for people who don't know what real power sounds like. Back at Amara's estate, an elegant stone and glass home in a gated corner of the city, a small private team was already reviewing footage, answering media requests, scrubbing death threats, and coordinating statements. Amara hadn't just been a judge for 12 years. She was a federal judge. She carried power like others wore jewelry. Effortlessly, and often without needing to flash it. Jaden was taken upstairs by a private nurse to be examined. Nothing broken, just bruises. Still, the nurse looked shaken after reading the boy's chart and matching the name on the video. Downstairs, Amara poured a neat glass of bourbon and sat across from Malik at the long walnut dining table. You kept it together, she said, even when I wanted to crack his damn jaw. Malik chuckled softly. That's why you're the judge and I'm the hammer. They clinked glasses. No smile, just understanding. Any news from the station? Malik asked. Redley's been suspended. The store manager issued a statement, blaming it on improper training. Corporate PR spin. But I already filed a civil complaint with the city. Good, Malik said, his jaw tightening. Kid didn't flinch. Even after that shove, he's tougher than he looks. Reminds me of me. Amara's eyes softened. He reminds me of his mother. There was silence then. Heavier. Then before, Jaden's mother, Mara's younger sister, had died 5 years ago in a hit-and-run still listed as unsolved. Malik had joined the family soon after, quietly recommended by someone high up. Amara never asked how high. She didn't want to know. All she knew was that when Malik arrived, People stopped asking questions and she finally slept through the night again now. All eyes were on them again, but something about this time felt different. They'll come for us harder this time, Malik said flatly. Amara nodded. Let them try. Across town, in a dimly lit boardroom, within a luxury hotel, a very different conversation was happening. A man in a gray designer suit held up his phone, watching the viral video loop again. The judge, the bodyguard, and the boy. He looked. To the others seated around the polished black table, 5 men, all white, all powerful in quiet ways. This wasn't supposed to happen, the man continued. We had plans in motion. That judge was supposed to keep a low profile after that last ruling. Now, she's on every screen. Another man leaned forward. You want us to shut it down? The first man smiled coldly. No, not yet. Let them dance in the light. Let them think the world is on their side. But when the light fades, they'll find we were always waiting in the dark. The next morning, the sunlight crept across the marble floors of Judge Amara Cole's estate. But peace didn't follow it. Malik was already awake, seated in the surveillance room that adjoined the back corridor. 3 screens were active external. Gates, motion sensors, drone footage overhead. He didn't need coffee, not after what his gut told him the night before. He replayed the store incident again, not for the shove, not for the viral clip, but for the faces in the background. There, just near the perfume display, a man in a navy ball cap, no visible panic, no flinch, watching, filming, then gone, rewinding, enhancing. Another shot, parking lot, same man. Still watching. Malik leaned forward. You weren't there for the comic book. Were you? Meanwhile, Jaden sat at the kitchen table, fresh bruise under his left arm and a plate of untouched waffles in front of him. The comic book Silver Sentinel number 64 finally lay open in his hands. You like superheroes? Malik asked, stepping into the room. Jaden shrugged. He's not a superhero. Not really. He's just a kid who finds armor and decides to protect people. Malik tilted his head. Sounds like a bodyguard. Jaden looked up. You think I could ever be like that? Malik didn't smile, but his eyes lit in that rare way they did. Not like him, like you. Jaden's mouth quirked. You always talk in riddles. Only 2 people smart enough to solve them. Jaden finally smiled. Downstairs, Amara sat in her study, reviewing court rulings and a stack of death threats mailed overnight. Her assistant Olivia looked concerned. They're saying you're using the boy for attention. I know. They're digging into your finances again. Your campaign donations. That old protest footage. Let them. Olivia paused. They're also digging into Malik's past. And that stopped Amara. Did they find anything? But they're trying. Amara leaned back in her chair and exhaled. Then they're about to learn something very dangerous. What's that? She looked toward the hallway, where Malik had just passed by, silent as ever, precise as a blade. That when you threaten a soldier who already buried his past, he doesn't hide. He fights. Back in the surveillance room, Malik switched. Cameras. The man in the ball cap had been spotted again, this time outside a coffee shop near Jaden's school. Same build, same posture. Watching, he picked up his phone. Activate Tier 2. The voice on the other end replied. Tier 2 confirmed. Are we going full cover? Not yet. Just eyes. And lock down all digital traces on Judge Cole and Jaden. Understood. Ended the call. This wasn't random. This wasn't just about a boy and a push. Something else was brewing. That night, Jaden was in bed reading when he heard a knock. Malik stepped in, holding a slim black box. What's that? Jaden asked. Malik placed it on the nightstand. Your first lesson. Jaden opened it. Inside was a weighted pen, a digital journal, and a small black device, like a USB drive with a screen. What is it? A tool for memory. For proof. For protection. Jaden looked confused. You're not just a kid anymore, Malik said, kneeling to meet his eye level. You were pushed because of how the world sees you. You'll rise because of how. You'll choose to see yourself. Everything changes from here. You understand? Jaden nodded slowly. I think so. Malik placed a hand on his shoulder. Then we start training tomorrow. Across the city, in a dark hotel suite, the man in the ball cap took off his disguise. He placed the cap beside a briefcase filled with surveillance photos, blueprints, and an envelope labeled Target. Stone status. Activated. He poured himself a drink, stared out over the city lights, and whispered, "They have no idea who they are. Just woke up." The sound of a storm once meant something different to Malik Stone. Long before he stood watch over federal judges and endangered children, long before the suit and the silence, he was a ghost in a different war, on a different continent, where the storms weren't weather, they were fire. The skies didn't pour rain, they rained metal. But before that, before he became a weapon, he was just a boy. Just like Jaden, Brooklyn, New York, 1988, Malik's childhood was noise and sirens, his father gone, his mother exhausted. Their apartment sat on the edge of Crown Heights, cracked windows, hot summers, cold radiators, and a neighborhood that raised boys into warriors or graves. By 9, he knew how to spot an undercover cop. By 10, he knew how to take a punch and not cry. By 13, he could read people better than most adults. Danger had a smell, and survival taught it better than any school. He wasn't tall yet, or strong, but his eyes, too still for his age, too focused, like he was waiting for something to ignite, and then it did. 1995. Operation Iron Rook, Kandahar. Province Malik's first deployment wasn't his hardest, but it was the one he remembered most clearly. A 12-man team, sand like flour, radios crackling at night, he learned quickly how to enter a room without leaving footprints, how to lie still for 8 hours without blinking, how to bury a brother without ceremony. It wasn't the kills that shaped him, it was the silences between. The way command stopped talking when things got too quiet. He learned early that orders were written in ink, but real decisions were made. In blood, back in the present, Malik stood alone in the judge's home gym, sweat glistening on his forehead, shirtless beneath flickering LED lights. His back told a story of war scars too clean to be accidental, too many to be ignored. Every inch of him was built for endurance, for violence, for defense. He wasn't working out for strength, he was remembering upstairs. Judge Amara Cole stood in her own past. The sound of a storm once meant something different to Malik Stone. Long before he stood watch over federal judges and endangered children, long before the suit and the silence, he was a ghost in a different war, on a different continent, where the storms weren't weather, they were fire. The skies didn't pour rain, they rained metal. But before that, before he became a weapon, he was just a boy. Just like Jaden, Brooklyn, New York, 1988, Malik's childhood was noise and sirens, his father gone, his mother exhausted. Their apartment sat on the edge of Crown Heights, cracked windows, hot summers, cold radiators, and a neighborhood that raised boys into warriors or graves. By 9, he knew how to spot an undercover cop. By 10, he knew how to take a punch and not cry. By 13, he could read people better than most adults. Danger had a smell. Survival taught it better than any school. He wasn't tall yet, or strong, but his eyes, too still for his age, too focused, like he was waiting for something to ignite, and then it did. 1995. Operation Iron Rook, Kandahar. Province Malik's first deployment wasn't his hardest, but it was the one he remembered most clearly. A 12-man team. Sand like flour, radios crackling at night. He learned quickly how to enter a room without leaving footprints, how to lie still for 8 hours without blinking, how to bury a brother without ceremony. It wasn't the kills that shaped him, it was the silences between. The way command stopped talking when things got too quiet. He learned early that orders were written in ink, but real decisions were made. In blood, back in the present, Malik stood alone in the judge's home gym, sweat glistening on his forehead, shirtless beneath flickering LED lights. His back told a story of war scars too clean to be accidental, too many to be ignored. Every inch of him was built for endurance, for violence, for defense. He wasn't working out for strength. He was remembering upstairs. Judge Amara Cole stood. In her own past, Harlem, 1992, she was 18 when they told her she was too angry for law school, too sharp, too vocal, too visible. Her response, valedictorian, law review, federal clerkship, Senate Judiciary Committee. And finally, black robe, golden nameplate, and the kind of courtroom silence that only came when someone dangerous entered the room. But the fire never left her. She just learned to put it in a suit. She was the one who took. Oh, she didn't. The accident, that's what the media called it. But she'd always believed it was more. Jaden's mother, her sister, had been on her way to file an ethics report against a city official when her car was hit by an unregistered black van. No suspects. No leads. Just a funeral and a boy with silent eyes who stopped speaking for 6 months. Amara gave up everything for him. Promotions, invitations, politics, but never her principles, and Malik. He was the answer to a question she hadn't known she'd asked. Malik was recommended to her by an unnamed senator. It's just a folder. No ranko. No rank. It's just a red seal in one sentence. He doesn't lose. From the moment Malik arrived, Jaden slept through the night. From the moment Malik arrived, so did the cameras. They didn't know it yet, but everything was shifting. And now the storm was back. Jaden Carter hadn't always been quiet. Before the funeral, before the news trucks, before the strange men in dark suits who never gave their names. Before the day he saw his mother's car twisted around a concrete divider like a crushed soda can. He was loud, brilliant, curious. He used to ask 100 questions a day. Why the sun made shadows. Why superheroes wore capes. Why police sirens made him scared even when he hadn't done anything wrong. But all that changed with one phone call, one knock on the door, one sentence whispered through tears. Jaden, Mommy's not coming back. The following 6 months passed like a ghost walk. Jaden didn't speak. Not a word. It's not even to Amara. He ate in silence. Slept in silence. Watched the rain fall for hours through the same bedroom window. Not one tear, not one outburst. Just illness. Doctors said. It was trauma. Said it would pass. But Amara didn't believe in waiting for pain to fade. She believed in confronting it. That's when Malik came. At first, Malik didn't speak much either. He didn't try to coax Jaden with baby talk or false comfort. He treated him like a soldier in recovery. Not weak, not broken, but simply recalibrating. He brought structure, precision, discipline. Every morning at 6 a.m. he'd knock on Jaden's door. Not open it, just knock. 2 knocks. Always the same. Jaden never responded. But every morning, Malik came anyway. After 2 weeks, Jaden opened the door. He didn't say anything, but he was awake by week 4. Malik began doing Tai Chi on the balcony. At first, Jaden just watched through the glass. Then one morning, he stepped outside barefoot, eyes squinting into the sun. He mimicked the movements, clumsy at first, then fluid, like water learning to flow again. Still no words, but now motion. One day as Malik performed the final slow sweep of the form, Jaden spoke. Just one word. Why? Malik paused, looked over his shoulder. For control, he said. Control of what? Yourself. Jaden didn't ask anything else, but he returned every morning after that. Amara noticed the change. The small one. The shift in Jaden's posture. The way he listened more closely. The way his eyes tracked everything Malik did. He wasn't healing. He was sharpening. The first sign of danger came in the form of a USB drive, delivered anonymously. No return address. Just a slim black flash drive and a single note. You're being watched. Amara's team ran diagnostics. No malware. Just a folder of photos. Low resolution. Long lens. Jaden on his way to school. Amara at a charity gala. Malik in a grocery store parking lot. The angles suggested multiple vantage points. Professional? Tactical. They filed a report. The drive disappeared from the evidence box 3 days later. Malik stopped taking public roads after that. Jaden's school switched to encrypted ID protocols. Amara bought a backup property under an alias, but still, the feeling lingered. They weren't alone anymore. One night, as Malik tucked a sleeping Jaden in, he paused at the door and whispered something almost too soft to hear. "Stay ready." Drive wasn't the only clue. It was just the first to arrive in a neat envelope. Over the next 6 months, the signs came like whispers through locked doors. Corrupted file in the city's legal archives. Acacia camera feed that looped back. 10 minutes before Malik even pulled it, an unmarked vehicle parked 3 blocks from Amara's courthouse every Tuesday. Small things overlooked by average people. But Malik Stone had never been average, and this wasn't paranoia. It was preparation. He started sleeping less, 3 hours. Maybe, just enough to keep the edge sharp. He'd sit in his quarters, lit only by the bluish hue of screens, drones, thermal scanners, facial pattern software. Every time he tracked one suspicious incident, he found 3 more behind it. One video showed a man tailing Amara from the courthouse to a closed-door briefing with the mayor. Another showed a silhouette watching Jaden's school from a rooftop to buildings over. Nothing conclusive, nothing overt, but it was there, like static beneath a song. He tapped into his old contacts, the kind of people who didn't ask why. People with no last names and disconnected numbers. People from a world Amara didn't like to speak about. Malik never had to. One call reached a woman known only as Cypher, a digital ghost, who once hijacked a classified tallied for 30 seconds and was never caught. "You're being trailed," Cypher said flatly. Levine eyes. "Military precision. Outsourced?" Malik asked. "Maybe, but they're careful. Whoever they are, they know your name." Crosstown, Amara was preparing for war. Not the kind with bullets, but press conferences, subpoenas, and the venom of public opinion. She wasn't just a judge. Now she was a symbol, and symbols made powerful enemies. She began rereading old case files, the kind with suspicious outcomes and sealed testimony. The ones her sister had been investigating before the crash. The deeper she went, the more familiar names resurfaced. 2 corporate defense attorneys, 1 city contractor, and a PAC that had donated thousands to a sitting senator who once blocked Amara's nomination for a federal bench. A map began forming on the wall behind her. Desk connections, money, silence. Jaden's mother had been right to dig, and now they had to finish what she started. Meanwhile, Jaden was changing. He still wore sneakers, still read comics, still had a smile he only shared with Malik or Amara, but something behind his eyes had sharpened. He began noticing exits in rooms, faces in crowds. He asked questions with intent, now not curiosity. He trained every morning with Malik now. Not just Tai Chi, but controlled sparring, pressure drills, focus games, surveillance spotting. He wasn't becoming a soldier. He was becoming aware. One night, Jaden knocked on Malik's door, held out a USB. "Found this in my backpack." It wasn't mine. Malik plugged it into his isolated rig. No malware. 1 video file. No metadata. Footage of a younger Malik in uniform, middle of a desert. Gun raised, enemy on the ground. Malik, walking away instead of pulling the trigger. Jaden looked up at him. "That was you?" Malik nodded. "Long time ago? Why didn't you shoot?" Malik turned off the screen. "Because sometimes the mission isn't what they say it is." Jaden held a stare. "They're trying to rattle you." Malik's lips curled slightly. "You're learning." It started with a voicemail, a number with no caller ID, a message that played only once. Amara listened twice, once through the speaker, once through headphones in her study with the door locked and the blinds drawn. Even then she wasn't sure what shook her more, the voice or the content. It was her sister's voice, alive, breathing, whispering through static. "If they find the boy, they'll use him. You need to burn everything. The files, the archive, all of it. They're watching the courthouse. Don't trust the senator." Then silence. No follow-up call. No trace. No pinged location. Amara sank into her chair, hand shaking not from fear, but from fury. If it was real, it meant everything they'd believed about the accident was a lie. If it wasn't real, then someone was playing with nuclear fire. Malik heard the tape once. Just once. And made a decision. "We go dark," he said. "No," Amara snapped. Way out of danger. And we called, way. Eight all way. Eight all way. L way. Is inner way. Way. Is it way. L way. That was the moment things shifted. They took Jaden to a school interview. Normal, staged, highly public. Amara knew what the press wanted. The nephew of the honorable judge, Amara Cole, survivor of tragedy, now returning to society like a phoenix. A photo op. But this time, Jaden spoke. His voice was calm, clean, not loud but heard. He said, "I want to be where people fight for the truth. My mother was one of them." The room fell silent. That clip aired across 6 networks.
It was
Retweeted 5 million times in 48 hours, and in one of those reposts, buried deep in a dark forum, a single user commented, "They didn't get the boy." Terminate the insurance? Malik saw it, screenshot it. Logged the IP. It pinged from Washington, D.C. that night. A black SUV circled the block. Once, twice, 3 times. Malik didn't call the police. He waited by the 3rd-floor window,
shirtless.
holding nothing but a thermal scope and a silenced Glock. When the SUV stopped, he memorized the plate. The man who got out didn't look toward the house, but Malik didn't need him to. He'd seen that face before. Afghanistan, 2006. Langley, 2011. Prague, 2014. The man's name was Beck Rourke, a private contractor turned ghost asset. No official record. No traceable employer. He specialized in soft coups and corporate eliminations. And now he was here, watching Jaden. Amara pulled Jaden out of school, not out of panic, out of necessity. She filed for home education under judicial exemption. Hired 2 private tutors, one for public academics, one for subtextual strategy. Both former intelligence analysts, Malik, began training Jaden in secure comms, how to spot a tail, how to exit a building without being noticed, how to vanish without looking like you're hiding. They weren't raising a child anymore. They were raising a target who had to survive. The media didn't stop. Jaden's one interview, it made him a public figure, an accidental symbol of youth resilience. Headlines called him the Quiet Flame. Amara was offered book deals, speaking engagements, honorary panels. She declined them all. But in the background, the enemies multiplied. One morning, she found her courtroom locked, no reason given. Security malfunction. Malik found a hidden listening device under her bench seat, military grade. That was the first time. Amara said the words aloud. "They're going to come after us. Not just Jaden. You, me, everyone." Malik didn't blink. They already have. Jaden hadn't remembered much about the crash. He'd always said he was asleep. But the blinding lights and shattering metal came like a dream he'd forgotten the moment it ended. But in the weeks after the news interview, after he said his mother's name on national television, the dreams returned. Not dreams. Visions. Memories that came jagged, like broken glass pieced together in the dark. First, it was a voice. His mother's voice, urgent, not panicked, but tense. "Don't let them find the drive. If anything happens, you go straight to Aunt Amara. Don't talk to anyone else. Okay, baby? Psst. Then came the flash. The sound of the horn. The way the truck didn't stop. And then the blur of a black figure stepping into the road before the impact. The SUV hadn't hit them by accident. It was planned, he told Amara. She didn't doubt him. Instead, she went silent for 10 seconds, walked to her safe, unlocked. It then pulled out an envelope Jaden had never seen. Inside, one Polaroid photo. It showed the mangled wreck of the SUV, taken before the official police arrived. Before the tape was sealed, in the top right corner, barely visible, was a second set of tire tracks angled away from the crash. Someone was following her, Amara whispered, and someone had gotten away. Malik traced the new clue back to Cypher. They met at midnight in an abandoned rooftop parking lot downtown. Cypher didn't speak at first. She was always a silhouette. Cropped hoodie, visor glasses, voice scrambled through a filter. But when Malik showed her the tire track analysis, her tone shifted. That pattern's been scrubbed. Local. Globally. Only one group uses rubber with a magnetic polymer tread like this. Malik froze. Private or government? Cypher didn't answer directly. She uploaded a folder to his encrypted drive and walked away. Inside, 7 names. 1 photo. A contract signed by a shell firm dissolved 12 hours after the crash. The photo showed Beck Rourke, the same man outside their house, standing with another man. White clean-cut, wire-rimmed glasses, military hair. The caption, read C. Ryland, interim director. Amara knew that name. He was the same official who testified in favor of an intelligence funding bill 2 weeks before her sister died. But it wasn't just surveillance anymore. It was sabotage. A blog post surfaced one morning. Anonymous. Title, "The Boy's Not Who You Think." It claimed Jaden's mother had ties to eco-terror groups. That she funneled donations through community charities to anti-government cells. That Jaden had been trained from birth to become a political symbol. No proof. It's just accusations. But the story went viral in the wrong places. Comments exploded. Look how well he speaks, that kid's been coached. Malik Stone? Isn't he ex-CIA? Who's funding this little operation? Amara Cole better get her nephew under control. He's dangerous. Malik tracked the post's origin. A network of shell IPs bouncing through Brazil, Belarus, and Seoul. But the root server led back to a public relations firm in Virginia. A firm tied to one client. Senator Dalton Harwick, the same senator who blocked Amara's federal nomination. Jaden read every comment. He didn't flinch. He just stood at the edge of the balcony one night, looking over the city skyline, and asked Malik one question. If they ruin my name, does that mean they win? Malik answered without turning. Only if you believe that's the only name you have. Amara stood in front of the mirror in her chambers, holding the speech that would light a match to everything. Not a press conference, not a casual statement. Summoning. She was about to testify not in court, but in the court of public opinion. On live television. With evidence, names, connections, everything she'd spent the last 4 years burying was about to come. Backup sharpened like a blade. Malik didn't try to stop her. He handed her a secured drive, encrypted, triple-layered failsafe. They try to cut the feed. This sends the video to over 30 advocacy channels and newsrooms. Amara raised an eyebrow. Trust issues? Malik smirked. I don't believe in accidents. But Amara wasn't the only one preparing for war. That same night, Malik returned to the rooftop parking lot where he'd last met Cypher. Only this time, he was followed. He let them follow. Deliberately, calculated turns. Delays, stops. He wanted to see who would bite. When he reached the top level, 4 men surrounded his vehicle. No badges. No markings, but they moved like professionals. And Malik moved like a ghost. 3 seconds. 1 broken wrist. 2 flat tires. 1 flipped man over the hood. Malik didn't shoot. He wanted answers. Only 1 man survived long enough to whisper, phrase into Malik's ear, The kid has the key. Project Glasslight wasn't terminated, just hidden. It was all Malik needed. Meanwhile, Jaden's dreams were turning. No longer flashes, full sequences. A long hallway. A hidden door in his mother's study. A lock with her fingerprint. A folder marked Phase 3. Inside, not just names, blueprints. A schematic for something. Bigger, the words Cerebral Mapping Initiative burned into. The paper's header. Jaden gasped awake. His hands trembled. Not from fear, but recognition. He'd seen that logo before. On a paper in the senator's hand, on the badge of one of the men who had once visited his mom pretending to be from CPS. The next morning, he walked into the study, stood in front of the shelf, and ran his hand across the seam of the wall. Click. A compartment opened. Not files. Not drives. A small glass vial with a thin white thread inside it. DNA. He brought it to Amara. She didn't blink. She held it like it was burning her. "This is why they want you. Is it mine?" Jaden asked. Amara shook her head slowly. "Hers, but it's not from her body. This was extracted. Before she died, probably tied to her research." Jaden's jaw tightened. She was tracking them. Before they ever found us? Amara's speech aired that night. She wore black. She didn't smile. She read names. Exposed funding trails. Connected the fake smear blog post to PAC money flowing into Harwick's campaign. Then she dropped the real bomb, 6 years ago. What? Sister submitted an intelligence request under the Freedom of Information Act regarding a project known only as Glasslight. That request disappeared. Investigator assigned to her car crash disappeared. The files were buried. But they weren't destroyed. Now they want to erase her son, twist his name, undermine his future. But they've failed. We won't run anymore. The networks lit up. So did the threats. Someone defaced Jaden's school with graffiti the next morning. Glass kid in red paint. A drone flew by their house at 3:41 a.m., hovering outside the kitchen window for 43 seconds before vanishing. But by then, Malik had already made his next move. He called Cypher. "Tell Ryland I'm coming for him. Tell him Glasslight just got exposed. You sure you want war, Malik? It's already here." The building sat between two shuttered warehouses in a forgotten industrial lot on the outskirts of town. No signage. No windows. Only a dented security gate and a keypad so old it looked like it hadn't beeped in years. But Malik knew better. Ciphers. Intel had been explicit. The Glasslight relay node was here. A substation used to siphon data and store black-budget intelligence before it was shipped off-grid. It had no staff. No guards. But it was alive. Breathing, watching. He came at midnight. Full tactical gear. No. Weapons drawn. Only scanners, jammers. And a thumb drive the size of a matchbox laced with malware. It's designed to tunnel through the coldest firewall. It took him 12 minutes to bypass the entry lock. 7 to cross the perimeter. 3 more to disable the internal sensors with a portable EMP spike. The walls inside buzzed as if the silence itself had weight. Then he saw it. The Glasslight core. Terminal. A 6-foot monolith of carbon black glass. Smooth, seamless, no ports. No keyboard, just a screen that pulsed like a slow heartbeat. Malik inserted the drive, and the system blinked to life. What he saw next nearly dropped him. Dozens of profiles, thousands of data points. One top priority target. Jaden Wellscole, alias, subject Delta to 8 status, passive asset potential threat notes, cognitive encoding observed, maternal genetic variants linked to memory transposition, subject retained access. But that wasn't the worst part. Next to Jaden's name was a countdown timer. 11 days, 16 hours, 37 minutes. Malik's blood ran cold. Whatever Project Glasslight had planned was already in motion. Meanwhile, Jaden sat in his room. Decoding, his mother's encrypted files weren't protected with passwords. They were protected with memories. He had to recall phrases only she would say. A birthday cake recipe. The exact way she used to hum when doing dishes. The day he'd broken his arm and she made him laugh even through the pain. Each recollection unlocked a new folder. Inside, scanned research, photographs, a video. He opened the video. His mother stood in front of a whiteboard, flanked by two younger researchers. If you're watching this, it means I failed. But my son didn't. Glasslight was never just surveillance. It's neural shaping. It's behavioral rewriting through environmental patterns and auditory stimuli. Jaden resisted it naturally. His brain doesn't sync to the feedback loops. That makes him unpredictable and dangerous to them. Jaden stared, breath held. They'll come for him eventually. When they do, remember this. He's not a weapon. He's the firewall. The words echoed in his skull. He didn't know exactly what they meant, but he understood the gravity. He wasn't the target. He was the last line of defense back at the facility. Malik was almost out when the sirens began. He ran 3 black SUVs pulled into the lot before he reached the exit, but Malik didn't shoot. He sprinted full speed, leaped over a forklift, and triggered his contingency. The malware had one final purpose: a data scrubbed. Explosion. The terminal erupted in flames behind him as he dived into the shadows. Glass and static biting at his skin, but he got out, with the truth in hand. Back at the house, Amara was waiting, and someone else. She stood in the dark kitchen, staring at Nolan Pierce, her legal clerk, the man who'd worked beside her for years, who had helped her bury files, redact documents, and who was holding a silenced pistol.
Oh.
You were never supposed to dig this deep, he said calmly. You were meant to grieve and let go. Who do you work for? Mara hissed. Ryland, his smile was cold. But don't worry. I'm not here to kill you, just the boy. Jaden entered the room. Time froze. Amara stepped in front of him. Malik's voice crackled through her earpiece. Just as Nolan raised the gun, Amara, he's one of them. Him speak. Their voice cues are too late. Nolan whispered a word. Jaden blinked and collapsed. Jaden didn't wake up right away. His body lay still, but inside his mind, a war was raging. Voices echoed across neural corridors he'd never known existed. Echoes of memories he hadn't lived. Images that weren't his. A woman screaming in Russian. A prison cell with no walls, just light. The sound of a metronome ticking at an impossible pace. Then silence. Then one voice. His own. Execute containment protocol. Firefly. Jaden's eyes shot open, but something was wrong. He didn't recognize the room, or the hands that trembled in front of him. His memory blurred, not wiped, but rearranged. He remembered. His name, he remembered Amara. But he also remembered things he never lived, things planted like roots in soil that wasn't his. Amara stood over him, eyes wet but fierce. Jaden, listen to me. You're still you. Fight whatever they tried. To inject, you have the power to override it. I don't know how, he whispered. Yes, you do. You've done it before. The night of the crash, you resisted a full neural collapse. That wasn't luck. That was instinct. Jaden shut his eyes. He reached inside himself, and then he heard it. A code, not numbers. A tone. S-U-B-S-O-N. I said, resonating deep in the base of his brain. It was Glasslight's failsafe. Malik said they use voice cues, Amara continued. But they can only trigger preloaded programs. If you didn't accept the code, you can still push it out. Jaden clenched his fists, and then he screamed, but not in fear. In frequency, the window shook, the glass in the lamp. Cracked, the energy pulsed out of him like a shock wave. And the pressure in his mind shattered like brittle crystal. The command broke. He was free again, at the same time. Across the city. Malik hunted fire. Nolan Pierce had set their backup apartment ablaze, hoping to destroy the rest of the files Amara kept hidden there. He didn't expect Malik to be waiting. The chase was brutal. Through smoke, up scaffolding, over narrow walkways still under construction. You don't know what he is, Nolan shouted as he ran. Glasslight wasn't built to monitor him, it was built to contain him. Malik caught him mid-sprint and slammed him into a half-finished concrete pillar. Then why are you so afraid of a 14-year-old? Nolan spit blood, because he's the only one who can reboot it. Malik didn't wait for a confession. He dragged Nolan back, bound, sedated, tossed into a reinforced holding cell they had retrofitted for the moment they feared might come. When Amara and Malik debriefed that night, they reviewed the footage. Jaden had unlocked from the encrypted core, and what they saw was worse than they imagined. Glasslight was never about surveillance. It was about testing minds. Every school, every social platform, every interactive toy or learning assistant used by children in the last 10 years, Glasslight software was embedded in the background. Watching for one thing? Resistance. Jaden wasn't the only child flagged, but he was the only one to fully override the neural scripts without its external help. That made him dangerous. That made him the missing piece. Jaden sat alone in the dark afterward, hands shaking, as Amara wrapped a blanket around him. "I don't want to be some experiment," he whispered. "You're not," she said, fierce. "You're the result of love, purpose. You are your mother's son, not their subject. But what if they built this thing into me? Then we tear it out, brick by brick." And in that moment, the next phase began. Cypher uploaded a dataset Malik had never seen before. Code fragments pulled from a live node still. It's transmitting in an unknown location. At the heart of it, a blueprint titled Phase 4, Phoenix Echo. Its target ID matched Jaden's, its activation date, 3 days from now. The signal was faint, not digital, not anymore. Whoever built Phoenix Echo knew Cypher's reach. They'd gone analog, a low-frequency carrier embedded in old satellite echo bands, bouncing from dish to dish across state lines like a ghost. It took Cypher 42 hours to triangulate the source, and even then it wasn't a location, it was a name. "Hawthorne Industrial Detention," she said through the scrambled uplink. "Old black site for decommissioned AI projects. Thought it was abandoned in 2021. "They lied," Malik growled. "They always do. Malik packed gear for war. Old. Tech non-networked. No chance of remote shutdowns. He loaded EMP grenades. Ear-blocking nanofabric, and a weapon no one else had touched in years. A custom sidearm designed to fire sonic disruptors. Not to kill, to disable minds. He was going in without Amara. "You'll be needed here," he told her. "If this goes south, Jaden needs a clear exit, not a trail of bodies." She didn't argue, but her eyes said, "If you don't come back, I'll bring the fire myself, back at the house." Jaden trained like never before. No more Tai Chi. No more childlike drills. This was control under duress. Target focus under neurological load. Cypher designed a neural feedback loop simulator that mimicked the glass-like cues in controlled conditions. Jaden wore a thin-band IG halo, and every time his vitals spiked, the system amped the pressure. Most people would have broken Jaden bent, but he never cracked. On day 2, Cypher whispered to Amara, "He's not resisting the signal. He's learning from it." "What do you mean?" "I think he's rewriting it." The next morning, Jaden approached Cypher directly. He said, "I'm not the only one. Show me the others." Cypher hesitated, but Malik had already authorized it. The faces appeared on the wall. 36 children. It's all flagged as high divergence. Risk. Every one of them removed from public records under the guise of missing persons or freak accidents. Jaden stared in silence. Then he asked, "How many are still alive?" Cypher's screen went still. 3. Jaden clenched his jaw. He didn't ask where. He just said, "Then we have to stop this." At the same time Malik reached the Hawthorne site, it was worse than expected. The facility looked dead from the outside. But underground, it breathed like a living thing. Motion-activated halls, fluid-cooled cores, surveillance tech tracking body heat through concrete. But Malik had been trained for ghosts. He moved through shadows, leaving false signatures behind him, and then he found it. The Phoenix chamber inside. A child. Plugged into a neurocradle, tubes down the spine. Eyes flickering beneath closed lids. Malik's breath froze. The child wasn't alive, not fully. But his brainwave pattern matched Jaden's. Not identical, synchronized. "Oh no," Cypher whispered through his earpiece. "They're running a clone loop." Project Phoenix wasn't about activating Jaden. It was about overriding him. The The chamber was prepping to flood his brain with synthetic resonance, a kind of mental DDoS that would wipe his identity and replace it with a predictive subroutine. Modeled on the Glasslight ideal, it wasn't just murder, it was theft. Malik did what he had. 2, he destroyed the cradle, set explosives through the relay systems. He triggered the countdown,
Ow.
then sprinted to extraction, and as the facility burned, behind him, Cypher decrypted the final file. It wasn't a weapon, it was a failsafe. They planned for this, she said grimly. If Phoenix Echo fails, the fallback is Jaden himself. What do you mean? Amara asked. They encoded a lock inside his DNA. If he ever breaches their systems fully, it activates a secondary command. Which does what? Deletes him from the world. The storm didn't come with thunder, it came with silence. A silence so deep the world had to listen. News broke before sunrise. A whistleblower leak, orchestrated by Cypher and uploaded by thousands of mirrored servers, flooded every major channel with documents, footage, transcripts. Project Glasslight laid bare. Every parent saw the testing protocols. Every teacher saw the triggers. Every child who'd ever felt watched finally knew they weren't imagining it. And at the center of it all, a 14-year-old boy named Jaden Cole. He stood on a press stage in front of the Capitol, flanked by Amara in her judge's robes and Malik in full formal security dress. He wasn't nervous because fear wasn't new. What was new was truth. My name is Jaden. I was born free. But some people tried to write a story for me without asking who I am. They called it safety. They called it research. But it was control. And today I say no more. A gasp ran through the crowd. Jaden closed his eyes and breath cast. Not just words. Not video.code. A frequency signal. Writing the same pulse Glasslight used, but inverted, scrambled, mutated by the very mind it was. Built to suppress. It was liberation. Viral. Instant. The Glasslight systems. Collapsed everything they'd embedded every whisper, every eye in every screen, shut down in one sweeping cascade. But the cost. Jaden collapsed. His vitals dipped. His EEG flatlined for 7.3 seconds, and then a blip. Then 2, and then his eyes opened. I think I broke the internet, he whispered, smiling weakly. Malik cried for the first time in 20 years. Amara didn't speak. She just held him. Over the weeks that followed, arrests were made. Nolan Pierce and dozens of co-conspirators were tried for crimes against humanity. Cypher went dark again, but not before leaving behind a final open-source security package called EchoShield. To protect children worldwide, Jaden was offered everything: money, fame, global tours. He said no. I just want to finish school, he told them. Amara returned to the bench, but this time, she didn't just interpret justice. She shaped it. She started a foundation in her sister's name, the Alana Initiative, focused on protecting digital rights of minors worldwide. Malik disappeared from public life, but those who needed him still found him, in the background, watching, guarding. Years later, Jaden sat in a quiet studio, finishing a painting, a bright red phoenix rising from a circuit board. When asked what it meant, he smiled and said, "It's not about fire or flight. It's about rebirth. Even when people try to erase you, you can always come back stronger." And in the stillness that followed, the world finally began to listen. Not just to authority, but to the ones they had ignored for too long. The children, the truth, the echo that changed everything. The end.